Our temperatures are ramping up to 29 degrees Celsius here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, I don't know whether this calls for celebration or whatever, but I have to note this observation, that hitherto it's usually a little warmer in Lagos, but now you are 29 degrees in Abuja and it's 28 degrees in Lagos. Well, I don't know what to say about that one. The weather people will come and talk about it. Welcome to the show. I'm Ayo Makinde. Today is the 11th day in the month of November 2025. Welcome to this Tuesday morning.
Indeed, Ayo. Well, it's been a long while since we did this, but right now we're going all the way to Benin City, the capital of Edo State, and we're bringing you visuals of Ramat Park as well as Ikpoba Hill. For those of you who know Benin very well, you do know that Ramat Park is an urban park in the city that is also the site of the first ever flyover, as the first ever flyover bridge currently under construction in the state. Ayo, look at the visuals that we're bringing to you from the ancient city of Benin Kingdom.
Just take it in for a bit. I know, just as you said, Marco, it's been a while since we saw this, and occasionally we should just remind ourselves what a beautiful nation we have and what historical landmarks we have. One of the things that a number of people, historians in particular, would remember about Benin City is that it had one of the largest kingdoms in the world at some point. That was pulled down for one reason or the other. And we hear that there are still, plottings, tracks, signs of the Great Wall of Benin that was built and eventually pulled out, bigger from what we heard than the much larger than the Great Wall of China that was so famous at the time. But here we are. But then enjoy this beautiful city of Benin City.
Well, at least you can see very clearly the reason why Ikpoba and Ramat Park will be hosting the first ever flyover bridge. Even from the visuals that you see there, you see that the roads look somewhat congested, and I'm sure that's why the government has deemed it fit to build a flyover. But that's not why we're precisely going to Benin. While the view from the top might be looking very nice, there are rumblings on the ground, from ancient times that have now found their way into modern times, and we'll be delving into that discussion when we come back from this break. So don't go away.
It's an exciting atmosphere as the Edo government officials, including commissioners, special advisors, and heads of agencies, gather to witness a historic moment. The royal visit of His Royal Majesty Omonobane Ukwu Akpolokpolo Obaewa II to the Governor Mando Ukpewolo-led administration at the Festival Hall of the Government House in Benin City, the state's capital. The event begins with prayers, seeking blessings for the governor, government, and the entire state. After the prayers, the inner theatre troupe pays tribute to His Royal Majesty with captivating song and dance. The Benin monarch takes the podium, appreciating Governor Ukpewolo's dedication to duty and encouraging the people to support his administration.
When you combine Akpakomiza and as they address me, and Ogidigan together, does it not equal to peace, unity, and development for the state?
The Oba sheds light on the Museum of West African Art, MOA, seeking government's intervention in addressing alleged misrepresentation surrounding the facility.
The structure that is standing there was actually supported by foreign donors and the goodwill of the Oba of Benin to build a royal museum, the Benin Royal Museum. I'm therefore in support of my people who came out a few days ago to protest against MOA opening of any sort.
In his response, Governor Okpewolo assures the Oba and the people of Edo State that his administration will handle the matter with the utmost care and sensitivity, prioritizing the preservation of the kingdom's rich cultural legacy.
Your Majesty, it was indeed a birthday present to you. It's Benin property, it's your property. And I believe wherever they took this issue to, nobody can defeat you, nobody can win you.
As the visit comes to a close, the state government, in keeping to its promise, swiftly constituted a special committee on MOA with a mandate to interface with international donor partners and trustees to, among others, ascertain the true legal and operational status of the Museum of West African Art. Jessica Oluwese, Channels Television News.
Well, that is the controversy that we are now going to be delving in, as we heard yesterday that some people went to invade that particular museum over the controversy that it has now breeded. This controversy started brewing from the last administration of the Obaseki-led administration, where it would seem that the governor and the Oba of Benin were not on the same page in terms of how the artifacts that have been returned, in terms of how the receivership and who should be in charge of them. The Oba of Benin believed that the artifacts were stolen from the palace and as such should be returned under the authority of the Oba of Benin. However, the state government at the time had other ideas, and that led to the establishment of a museum. Initially, the museum was named the Benin Royal Museum, but it does appear that the name is now being changed to the Museum of West African Art, which has angered the palace and has also angered, maybe not just the palace, but also a number of people within the Benin Kingdom as well. And we saw a protest this week. So we're going to be delving into how that controversy will be resolved, given the fact that the Edo State government has already said they are going to wade into this. Why has that assurance not been enough for the people of Benin City? Well, joining us to discuss this right now is Mr. Kasim Afegboa, who is the Commissioner of Information in Edo State, and he joins us from our studios in Benin. Good morning, Mr. Afegboa. It's good to see you. I want to believe that you're very aware of the controversy and perhaps can give us a little more light on why precisely we saw what we saw yesterday.
Good morning, Marque, and thank you for having me this morning. Well, if honesty were to be served, there wouldn't be need for controversy, because your introduction captures the nexus of this particular altercation, so to speak. There was plan in 2018 by the governor of Edo State then, Godwin Obaseki, who said he was giving the Oba a birthday present by pronouncing that the Benin Dialogue Group had concluded to build Benin Royal Museum as a befitting birthday present, and that will be completed in 3 years then. You know, from 2018, it will have ended in 2021. And along the line, they set up what they call the Legacy Trust, Benin Legacy Trust. From there, they changed it to Edo Museum of West African Arts. And by the time the artifacts were coming, Germans returned 1,200 artifacts. Netherlands returned 119 of those artifacts. And UK, Sweden, Italy, they all returned different artifacts. And the then governor, in trying to warehouse the artifacts, was now in contention with the Oba of Benin. The Oba of Benin had to approach the then president, late Muhammadu Buhari, who said no, the Oba should be the custodian of artifacts stolen from their palace. And by so doing, went ahead to write a letter officially to the Oba and also gazetted that particular decision. So the National Council for Museum and Monuments had to warehouse those particular artifacts in one place at the Ring Road in Benin, close to the Oba Palace. Now, that angered the then governor, Obaseki, who now decided to convert the Edo Museum of West African Arts to Museum of West African Arts, removing the E, which stands for Edo, and converted it to a private trustee headed by one of his former staff, Philip Iheanacho, who works with Afri Invest, the London office. Now, they started building, receiving money from international donor agencies, government of different, Germany, America, Sweden, Norway, Netherlands, Belgium, quite a number of them. And the state government also invested 3.8 billion in what we saw in the records. And the land that he ceded to MOA happens to be the location of the Benin Central Hospital, which was built in 1803. They demolished that hospital, demolished the mortuary, and gave them almost about 10 plots. It's quite a huge land. And they started building this MOA. So there has been some kind of, quiet rumbling, so to speak, between the monarchy and those who were building this. And that is what snowballed into what you saw 2-3 days ago when they were trying to do an in-house opening of that particular museum.
All right, so, that was what was it the opening of the museum that caused controversy? Is that what we saw? Because we do know that assurances had already been provided by the Edo state government. I don't know if our producers can show the visuals that we saw. It led to, I think, workers at the museum, first of all, being evacuated. We saw that particular visual. And then we now saw a group of young men. I'm reluctant to call them names because I also saw that the police, there was a police official who was walking with them and they were chanting, Obaga Tokbe, and they were responding. So it was seen that they went there in the name of the palace to cause whatever disruption that they had gone there to cause. Was it that the assurance that the state government, the new state government had given to them about, wanting to, assuage the feelings of the palace wasn't sufficient assurance?
Well, the point must be made very clearly that the government had interface with the drivers of the MOA, in this case, Philip Iheanacho, and cautioned them to apply a little bit of brake in order for us to resolve all the gray areas. First, what we did was to reduce the size of the MOA in terms of the land allocated to it. And it will interest you to know that the CFO of that land is bearing Edo Museum of West African Arts, which they later changed to Museum of West African Arts for whatever purpose that was meant to serve. So the governor met a couple of times with the palace and also met with the Moa people and told them that, well, because of all of these gray areas, postpone your opening, let's sit down, let's resolve all of these gray areas so that in the interest of peace, we can get a solution or a way forward. But I think on their own, they decided to shift the opening from Monday, which was yesterday, to Sunday. And incidentally, the governor was not in Benin City. He was in Auchi attending a Thanksgiving. And we had not envisaged that there would be an opening. It was later we were seeing visuals of some boys chanting slogans about Tokbae and all of that. It's just a way to respond to the disapproval of what Moa was doing without carrying the palace along ab initio. You can't discuss issues of museum, artifacts, bronzes, and what have you in Benin Kingdom without factoring the palace as the nucleus of that kind of discussion. But for whatever it is worth, the organizers felt that they are doing a private trustee kind of a museum on a palace ground, you know, ceded to them by demolishing the central hospital premises and thinking that they were doing some kind of favor for the Benin collective. But I think, first thing first, when you want to put up, you know, an edifice to promote a particular idea, you have to essentially make sure that you fulfill all righteousness in terms of your procedure, your land acquisition, your land, your building, your architecture, the purpose for which you are building such, and the factors that should matter to you. And you can't discuss culture and tradition in Benin City without discussing the monarchy, because that is the epitome of our cultural heritage. Whether you are from Benin City or otherwise, it is a kingdom that has retained its sovereignty, you know, for years, over 800 years. And so if such a thing was happening and you are not factoring the king, tempers are likely to rise. And that was exactly what happened. What the governor has done now was to set up a committee headed by Senator Adams Oshomole yesterday to look into the remote, you know, and immediate cause of all of this and come out with a recommendation. Meanwhile, the State Assembly is also looking into the issue to grant people the opportunity for public hearing so that they can also come at a solution. We don't want to be seen as trying to disrupt a process that has not followed due process. At the same time, we also want to ensure that the royalty, the Benin Royal Museum or the palace, is properly treated with discipline, respect that it deserves, you know, as the epitome of culture and tradition in Benin City.
All right,
so,
Mr. Afegwa, just a moment.
That's exactly, yes.
All right, so I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts for us because Mr. Ogbede Ifalui Isibo, who is a former commissioner for digital economy, science and technology, has since joined us in Abuja studios. Good morning, Mr. Ogbede. I was going to ask, you know, whether you agree with his own account of events leading up to where it is that we are. But this controversy, which started during the last administration, seems to have now continued into this administration, giving rise to what we saw yesterday. What's your account of the story?
Well, thank you. Thank you again for having me. I would like to, first of all, posit that we should not allow misinformation, petty politics, lazy leadership, and unhygienic politics destroy development in the Benin Kingdom or in Edo State. If we're having to prosper our economy, if we're having to improve the lot of our people, and an administration has thought it wise to bring in development to the Benin Kingdom and to that extent Edo State, every Edo person should have a buy-in into what is happening. Sadly, a lot of wrong information deliberately has been peddled, that has permeated into the hearts of many people by this administration, and it is preposterous because a government ought to be a continuity. There ought to be some levels of layers being laid when a new administration comes on board.
So what is the misinformation? Let's get to it.
Thank you. I'm going to get to it. First of all, the Benin Royal Museum and the Museum for West African Arts are two exclusive events, are two exclusive structures. The misinformation is that they are going about lying to the Edo people, lying to Nigerians, that the returned artifacts are in possession of the Museum of West African Arts. And that is not true. In November of 2021, France returned 26 treasures to the Oba of Benin. In June of 2022, the Germans returned 1,130 artifacts to the Oba of Benin. In July of 2025, Netherlands returned 116 artifacts to the Oba of Benin. This is public information. All the returned artifacts are in possession of the monarch, as gazetted by President Buhari. So there's no contention over the possession or the whereabouts of the returned artifacts. And the Oba of Benin, in his wisdom, had stated that the Benin Royal Museum was to be built specifically to house the returned artifacts. What the Museum of West African Arts has in their collection has absolutely nothing to do with the returned artifacts. What they have built there is a research institute, an archaeological campus, to help for research and promote West African arts, not Edo arts, not the Benin arts only. And so the misinformation, which has been deliberate by this administration, is to deceive the people. The day the Supreme Court gave judgments to the administration, we saw it on video, Adam Soshomale telling the governor to immediately revoke the Museum for West African Arts. That has been the narrative peddled since this administration came aboard. Whatever the previous government did, there's been a deliberate and consistent witch hunt to destroy whatever he has done. And what we're saying is this: you can hate Godwin Obaseki, you can have animosity against him, but you should not, because of your hate for him, destroy development that has come to Edo State and to the Benin Kingdom. The Museum for West African Art is built to employ 25,000 Edo people, directly and indirectly. I doubt if the present Edo State government has that amount of employers in her coffers. But now this is investment that has come, and this is not private investment to that extent. These were donations that were made. Edo State made a donation of 3.8 billion naira to the Museum for West African Arts. We had fundings as gifts from the Mellon Foundation, the Gates Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the British government, the Dutch government, and several other personal individuals making free will donations in good faith for the good of the people to promote arts and culture. The idea was to have Benin City to become the fulcrum of West African culture, so that art lovers around the world, when they want to enjoy West African arts, they came to Benin. That is an advantage to the Benin Kingdom.
Well, you have said that this is some misinformation peddled by the current administration, but some people will say that this information had been out there before even this administration came in, because it would seem that something irked the Oba of Benin. Something did not sit right with him, so much so that a dispute had to be taken to the presidency, and the president had to say no, the Oba of Benin should be the custodian of whatever artifacts were returned. So clearly there was already a line for dispute there. Do you agree with that?
It appears to have been so, and that is why the President Buhari gazetted that all returned artifacts must be domiciled with the Oba of Benin. And the moment that was settled, there was no contention about that. And it was even after then, there were conversations. In fact, in 2019, the Oba of Benin had inaugurated and appointed members of the Board of Trustees for the Benin Royal Museum. He had Professor Wole Nshorika, Nduka Baigbana, and several other individuals in that committee. And in 2019, the Edo State government had budgeted 500 million naira in that year's budget for the building of the Benin Royal Museum. How that went down is information I do not have, but the fact is that the misinformation...
Where is that museum being built?
The Benin Royal Museum, Well, at the moment, in June of 2025, that's this year, the daughter of the Oba of Benin, when we received 116 artifacts from the Netherlands, she made a public statement, reading a letter from her father, telling the people that the Oba Akenzo Cultural Complex, which sits opposite the palace, will be converted to the Benin Royal Museum. That was not information from government. That was information from the palace. So now we're in a strait betwixt two when they come to peddle this wrong information, because if the king through his daughter had said that the Oba Akenzo Cultural Complex will be converted to the Benin Royal Museum, where then is the discrepancies? At this time, the Museum for West African Art had already been pre-commissioned 7 months before. So the attempt to make it look as though instead of building the Benin Royal Museum, then government built the Museum for West African Art is very funny. It wasn't government built. It was an investment by renowned foundations all across the world. So, so the point I'm trying to sit with for the Edo people and for the Nigerian people is that the Museum for West African Art had absolutely no business with the returned artifacts, which were to be domiciled with the Benin Royal Museum.
All right, I know my colleague Ayo wants to jump into this conversation. Ayo, over to you.
Thank you, Mokwe. The first question I'd like to ask, the same, former commissioner in the studio with you. You said that there are two different institutions, the Benin Royal Museum and the MOA, Museum of West African Arts. What do we have inside MOA as different from what we have inside the Benin Royal Museum?
And it makes my job even easy. At the moment, there is no such structure as the Benin Royal Museum. And that means that all the returned artifacts are still domiciled with the monarch in the palace. So there's no issue of where the artifacts are. Everybody knows where they are. And the king has not accused anybody of coming to take the artifacts from the palace. What we have in the Museum of West African Arts is artwork of archaeologists and creatives from the West African sub-region. It is not Benin art. It is not Edo art. It is not Nigerian art. Okay. I mean, we saw the preview a few days ago of visitors from across the world come into MOA to have an understanding of what West Africa has to produce. So
all right, just a second. Clearly, that is noted. Yeah. That is noted. Let me quickly ask Mr. Fegwa. Mr. Fegwa, can you confirm that fact? Oh dear. Because it's necessary to find out whether or not that is the truth, and I believe that we'll still be able to get him back. But then still back to you, there is this information from 2023 where the former president, he said unequivocally, and I quote, he said that the artifacts from Europe and other parts of the world should be handed to the Oba of Benin, being the one who should have, the authority for them to be in his possession. Is this something that the government of the day was pleased with, or was there a difference or difference between the Oba of Benin and the governor at the time?
Well, there was no discrepancies as to where the artifacts should be situated. And to what you just posed right now, if those artifacts were taken to Benin, I'm not very sure if they were, they would certainly have been in the possession of the monarch. And that is not in contention. And even the government at the time did not have any dealings to do with it. Now the accusation is that when the artifacts were returned, monies were returned with the artifacts, and the monies were then diverted. That argument has to be addressed, because if the federal government had gazetted that all returned artifacts be given to the Oba of Benin, who would then give artifacts to the Oba of Benin and then give the money to the Edo State government? That did not make any sense. Yesterday, the EU ambassador made it expressly clear to the state governor that all donations that were made by foreign bodies, foreign organizations, and local individuals were given for the creation of the Museum for West African Arts and not any other nomenclature, because the allegation that the Edo State government went to source for donations using the Benin Royal Museum as the infrastructure to be built, it is wrong information. And the EU ambassador made this expressly clear yesterday to the Edo people. And we heard yesterday evening that the governor was going to revoke the CFO for the Museum of West African Arts. And we also heard the Minister for Culture and Tourism issue an advisory appealing that let us not allow tensions rise about this matter, because Nigeria as a nation was already dealing with negative publicity from the United States. And now having to have the members of the EU have this same trouble. How can it be, sir, that 4 ambassadors were locked up at the Museum for West African Arts, harassed, threatened, and intimidated by unscrupulous Edo elements who went there to make trouble? How can it be that as a nation, when it is our duty to make sure that ambassadors are protected, they come to Benin, a kingdom that is so respected across the world, and then we're having this expression of complete buffoonery, making mockery of the people, making merchandise of our nation, and causing a disgrace to the Edo people? We are not hoodlums. We are not touts. We are civil people. If people came into your kingdom to inspect arts, we welcome visitors. Whatever happened that day was disgraceful, and we must situate it the way it is. That is not who we are, and we must be very careful the way we go about this thing. Let's not drag Nigeria into the gutters even worse than it is right now because of our primitive politics and lack of hygiene in politics.
All right, I see that Mr. Adeboye is back now. I do not know if there are areas where, he will take objection with your account of events, because we do understand that there have been areas talking about financial, because you are saying now that the British,
the EU ambassador,
the Benin Royal Museum and the Museum for West African Arts are 2 separate entities. The Museum for West African Arts is a private entity, or does it belong to the people of Edo State?
Well, I won't say it belongs to the people of Edo State, because these were donations that were made from across the world to build a facility for West African arts, not specifically for the Benin people. And so to the point where he was trying to say, oh, the name was changed from EMOA, that's the Edo Museum, to Museum for West African Arts, the idea of the governor was to use EMOA to promote Edo State. In most of what we had in government then, if it was Edo Best, if it was Edo Jobs, if it was Edo Net, the governor always wanted to have Edo at the front. But when the time for EMOA came, those who were bringing their donations told him that they wanted a more holistic view for West Africa. They wanted a more global audience for West Africa. But if you localize it to Edo, that does not give those other West African nations that amount of buy-in into that project. And that was why it was changed. There was no reason. I mean, the change in nomenclature was just to make it better, to give it more audience and more visibility to a wider reach.
Okay, good. So you do say that there were 2 separate museums, but it would seem that perhaps this second museum was conceived after the fallout with the palace. Is that correct?
That is not true, because in 2019, when the Oba of Benin appointed Board of Trustees for the Benin Royal Museum, that was the same year the Edo State government had budgeted 500 million naira for the building of the Benin Royal Museum. And what was expected was that in collaboration with the Benin Royal Group, there were a couple of people who came to meet. The idea was that let us build this facility so that when the artifacts come, when they started coming in 2021, we will have a place to house them. Somewhere along the line, there must have been, a back and forth that didn't make that happen, because the money that was budgeted by state government was not drawn down, and it was supposed to be. So that's a different argument right now. However, the Edo State government did not build the Museum for West African Arts.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's taken. I think Mr. Adeboye is back now. Mr. Adeboye, I'm sure that you have heard all that Mr. Ifalu Yisibo has said. I do not know if you would like to respond to some of the issues. I mean, he does say that there are gray areas. For instance, the fact that there are 2 separate museums, but it does appear that that has been missed in the explanation, in the current explanation of the Edo State government. Is that intentional?
I lost you quite a while in in the last 10 minutes, but I was able to pick a few things that your guest in Abuja studio was saying, and I think some people will be better off as comedians than actually addressing the critical issue about MOA and all the ancillary factors that has led to this discussion. The point must be made very clearly that you cannot be discussing about Benin Kingdom without the kingdom getting involved. Your guest is talking about Benin Kingdom, but there's no kingdom in the kingdom. You're in the discussion. You are talking about MOA. What made them to change MOA to MOA? Why did they remove Edo from MOA? Edo Museum of West African Arts. Why did they remove the E? Then you say you donated, the government donated 3.8 billion. When has the government become Father Christmas that it will donate 3.8 billion for a cause that will not benefit it? Why do you have to see the entire palace ground, housing a central hospital, demolishing a mortuary and all of that for a museum? People need to be well and healthy to visit museum. So you did that, ceded the whole land, a whole expanse of land to them in the name of advancing the cause of MOA. Then you choose Obaseki's staff, Philip Iheanacho, to preside over Benin's cultural, culture and tradition, where you have the man, the power.
I think that you missed really a significant chunk of what he said. But a significant chunk, or lost in that chunk, was he said that there are two separate museums. The Benin Royal Museum is separate from the Museum of West African Art, and that the Museum for West African Art was funded solely from international donors who wanted a more holistic look, and that's why they had to change the name from Edo Museum of West African Art to the Museum of West African Art. I was asking if you are aware that these are two separate entities, and if the Edo State government is intentionally still maintaining that they are one and the same.
They are not, Mark, they are not. You have been following the discussion very correctly, particularly the historical antecedent of that museum. The point was, Governor Obaseki promised Oba of Benin on October 20, 2018, at the second year anniversary of the Omonoban Ebekwa Polopolo by Ewari II, that the Benin Dialogue Group had resolved in their meeting in Netherlands to build a Benin Royal Museum as a fitting birthday present that will be completed in 3 years. As soon as the artifacts were coming and they were being supported by finances, Obaseki changed midstream, wanted the Oba to sign a letter ceding authority and power to him, and once the Oba refused that, he went bonkers. And that was the genesis of this present altercation. So when they started Edo Museum of West African Arts, midstream, they changed the name to Museum of West African Arts, knowing full well that putting Edo will incorporate the Benin Palace. Now, the government of the day gave them land free of charge. It's a private trustee who said government donated land, palace ground for that matter, gave them 3.8 billion according to the man who is there, which we also capture in the records, and allow a private entity to run with several millions of euro and dollars donated by different organizations. Then, do you build a museum for a kingdom without the kingdom getting involved? Number one. Number two, the artifacts you are talking about, those should be the natural motivation for a museum. Artifacts that were stolen in 1897, for which the German ambassador yesterday told us that they returned 1,200 artifacts. The Netherlands ambassador told us yesterday that they returned 119 artifacts, and several other ambassadors that we hosted yesterday. So what we were telling them was like an eye-opener, because the impression created was that the Benin monarchy was carried along in all of this. So we had to move them to see the Oba yesterday. And the Oba explained the genesis of this crisis and what have you, because as soon as the Oba refused to sign that particular letter, Obaseki started his altercations with the monarchy, tried to balkanize the kingdom, wanting to even impose some kings in some local governments, which was an abomination. Before the Oba now hurriedly went to meet President Buhari, may he so rest in peace, to obtain permission officially by letter and by gazette to be able to warehouse the artifacts.
Mr. Febwa, we really need to...
The CFO granting that place is bearing Edo Museum of West African Arts, not MOA, not Museum of West African Arts.
Mr. Febwa,
So when you do a project and that is shrouded with all kinds of infractions, all kinds of fraudulent sharp practices, you are likely to have this kind of response from the public.
Mr. Febwa, I just want to find out, because we're totally out of time now. I need to find out if a resolution has been reached and whether all the parties have come to an understanding. Will there be an understanding going forward, or will we continue to see incidences like what we saw over the weekend?
I didn't get you. Can you please?
I was asking if, you know, a resolution has been reached, because you said that ambassadors were hosted yesterday, etc. I'm asking if you're working towards a resolution, or we'll continue to see incidences like what we saw on Sunday.
I think I've lost you.
Oh, dear. Well, I don't know, you know, I hope that we're able to get it, but we're totally out of time. What do you want to see the Edo State government do in this instance?
Well, thank you. I want us to stop being proud of what we should be ashamed of. I want us to rise above petty and primitive politics and unhygienic politics and have the Edo people suffer for it. I want us to be able to focus on leadership and governance and stop this hatred for the past administration. I want us to be able to continue progress. Paul preached the message, Apollos watered, and God gave the increase. Obaseki built A. You can build B, let somebody else build C. The attempt to continuously want to destroy whatever Obaseki built doesn't help the people, doesn't help the economy, and doesn't help our politics. When they make mention of the Central Hospital that was demolished, that hospital was built in 1902, before my grandmother was born. And by the early 1900s, in 2000, 2001, nobody was visiting that place any longer. It became a caricature building. And so Governor Adams Oshobale rebuilt a specialist hospital just by that hospital. And so when they come to tell us that, oh, you destroyed a hospital to build a museum, that makes mockery of what the truth is. And we as Edo people, we're all ashamed of what happened a few days ago. And we are still grappling with the consequences. And we are hoping that we can rise above this, come together, sit on the table, appeal to His Excellency, the Governor of the state, for us to come together and move forward. Edo people should be his focus. Edo progress should be his focus.
I want to believe so, that will be at the heart and at the center of all that will be discussed on this matter. We have to thank you for coming, Ogbede Faluyi-Sibo, former Commissioner for Digital Economy, Science and Technology, and also the Organizing Secretary of PDP in Edo State. I have to apologize to Mr. Kasima Fegwa. You know, his connection did not let us take his closing comment, and we're totally out of time. He is the Commissioner for Information in Edo State, and we're hoping to see a peaceful resolution of this particular dispute in such a way that the people of Edo State will once again be able to proudly display their own artifacts for the enjoyment and the beauty of not just Nigeria, but the world. Well, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll have another issue at hand. Mr. Laolu Akonde will be joining us in just a moment. Please stay with us. Well, yes, Mr. Laolu Akonde is here, and we are going to continue our conversation around this threat of invasion. That's why a lot of people are interpreting it here in Nigeria, around this Christian genocide or no Christian genocide. And we saw the intervention of the National Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs on Sunday, as we did also hear from renowned pastor, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, who, you know, gave his own word. And this is the intervention of, you know, one, a prominent leader of a huge Pentecostal body, and the other, you know, let's say the umbrella body of all Muslims here in Nigeria. I do not know what you made of their interventions. Do you think that it has helped to douse whatever stress or whatever tension might be brewing among Nigerians, or do you think that, you know, it is fueling it however subtly?
Yeah, well, so there are two different interventions. The one, first of all, by Pastor Adeboye on Friday midnight, and then the Islamic Council on Sunday. I think, you know, for Pastor Adeboye's intervention, we must commend his resolve to go public on this particular issue. And I think, you know, it's clear why that had to happen, because already the intervention of Mr. Donald Trump, the American president, has changed the whole dynamics. You know, if you have the leader of the free world, the man with the loudest speaker in the whole world, and the man that controls the strongest military as we know it, get involved in your matter, then, you know, it's time for everybody to really come out and say, try to help the situation, which is what I think Pastor Adeboye did. You must also remember that in telling his own side of intervention, he did say that, you know, he's been doing his own part very quietly. You know, there are those who would have felt that, look, I mean, when all this kind of stuff is happening in the country, where are our leaders, what are they doing? And he filled that gap to say that, look, you know, we don't often, that he doesn't often come out, that he does his own stuff quietly. He gave the example of what is discussed with late President Buhari. So I think his own intervention came in very handy. You know, I think it was well thought out, and I think it's also timely. But the most important thing that he said, in my view, in that intervention, that is Pastor Adeboye, is the fact that it is important not just to destroy these purveyors of violence, these terrorists, these bandits, you know, but that we should also go after their financiers and their backers, you know. So that is so critical, because the only reason, or the most important reason why we've had to be struggling with this thing since 2009 is not just because of those guys who are doing the job on the ground. There are forces, there are very entrenched, determined forces that are perpetuating this thing, maintaining it, supporting it, sponsoring it, financing it. You will recollect, Marquette, that there was a time that the UAE actually submitted a list, you know, of some of the financiers to the federal government. Now, I think some of the newspapers actually managed to get the list. You know, I remember reading it in the Punch, but we didn't get any kind of follow-up. And I don't think it was under this current administration, by the way, but we didn't get any kind of follow-up. And that spoke volumes. It speaks volume to the nature of the crisis that we are dealing with. And that was why I thought that when Pastor Adeboye said that the president shouldn't just go after the terrorists, that the federal government arsenals shouldn't just be used against terrorists, but we should also go after the people that are supporting it, the people that are financing it. That is such a very bold move, and I hope that the president himself is emboldened, because what it will take that has not happened before, Marquette, is that our leaders have not done that fight. You know, people just kick the can down the road. There must be a duel between the people that control the arsenals of force, the instrument of force, the people that have the exclusive control of the instrument of force, to use it against the people that are supporting and maintaining it. That is what we have not had. We've seen a lot of kinetic and non-kinetic approaches, you know, on the ground, but there are entrenched forces behind the scene. We need to go after them. So
that's Pastor Adeboye's intervention.
Yeah.
The NSCIA.
Right. So the NSCIA's position, you know, dwells more on on the controversial aspect. Okay, and if you compare it with what Pastor Adeboye did, Pastor Adeboye did not bother himself to get involved with, okay,
who caused it, who funded it.
Yeah, the controversial, the divisive rhetoric. The man said, look, Nigerians are dying. And that is what we would have expected the Islamic Council to also focus on. This debate over whether it is Christian genocide, how can they say that it's genocide? All of those things, they are really, in my own view, why they are not baseless, and there is a place for it. Those of us who are in the position of leadership, we need to put our eye on the main issue. We have to focus on how do we solve this problem? How do we end it? The statement of the Islamic Council, I mean, by my very good brother and friend, it was very disappointing, very disappointing. We don't need this argument. We don't need this controversy about,
Professor Ishakolede.
Yeah, otherwise, great Nigeria. But his statement does not show leadership.
Now, but some people will say that it's easy for you to say when you are not, when you don't feel directly attacked, or it doesn't appear that your religion matters. Because, I mean, the statement putting us on the country of particular concern, designating us as a country of particular concern, focuses on Christians, saying Christianity is under existential threat in Nigeria. Islamist radicals are responsible, therefore I am doing this. It doesn't say anything about Muslim lives, and it does appear that their lives doesn't matter, or a number of other, will I say, inferences from that. So some people will say maybe that was what this was designed to achieve in the first instance.
The important point, Markwe, is that what do we as Nigerians do? What action should we take? We cannot allow ourselves to be frozen in that controversy that it is Christian genocide. We're not talking about this. Because that itself can, if we get into that debate, we will not get out of this problem. And it can consume our country. Because there are no arguments that are baseless. Yes, of course, Muslim lives also matter. Christians' lives matter. But everybody, we are all Nigerians. So why don't we, which was what Pastor Adeboye did. Let's focus on the problem, the fact that we have to talk about these things in a way that all of us can agree. And we can all agree that those killings are wrongful, they are wicked, they are despicable, and should stop. I mean, getting involved in this, look, we can make a list, Markwe, that justifies, the argument of genocidal claims. We can make a list of it. Nigerians haven't forgotten, Imam Abdullah Abubakar, in Plateau, who defended 262 Christians who were going to be attacked by terrorists. The man is an Islamic cleric. He defended them. He hid them in his mosque when they were targeting Christians. These things happened. And to the credit of President Buhari, he gave him a national honor in recognition of. There are all kinds of things that are going on in the country. Look, I mean, we don't need to go there. We should, as leaders, just say that, okay, look, how do we get out of this problem?
And I think it's a fine place to leave it. It's a fine place to leave it. It's a key question for all of us to ponder on. How do we get out of this problem? Laulu Akonde, thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for coming on. For those of you who are upset that I didn't let him tell you the story the last time, it is in Inside Sources, and that story is right there. So don't blame me. Blame yourself if you don't go and watch, past episodes of Inside Sources. But Mr. Laulu Akonde is a former presidential aide and also the presenter of Channel Television's Inside Sources. That's why we draw the curtains on today's program, Sunrise Daily. Thank you for being a great part of it. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Interestingly, Maokwe, everyone says it's a wake-up call. Question is, are we awake? I'm Makinde. Enjoy the rest of your day. Business Morning is on the hour.